If you want to learn how to get to $5 or $10 million, I can teach you that. I have the ability to buy my mom a waterfront condo for $1 million cash. You can collect $10, $50, $100,000 up front before even having anything to give to those people whatsoever. Helping people make transformations in general is what really motivates me and drives me.
Welcome to the Bulletproof Entrepreneur Show, where our goal is to uncover the truth about business and introduce you to the people, the tools, and strategies to make your mind, life, and money bulletproof. In this episode, I sat down with Simon Lerner. Simon is a 22-year-old Russian immigrant and founder of Netcon Events and Netcon Trading, who has made over $10 million by turning his childhood passion for video games into gaming the stock and real estate markets. And he's taught thousands of others to do the same. In this episode, we discuss what you really need to focus on to become successful quickly and sustainably, no matter how old you are, how modern education is failing today's youth, and how Simon plans to reinvent the entire system in the coming years. If at any point, as you're watching, if this seems helpful for you, just tap that like button. It'll help the YouTube algorithm show this video to more people. That said, let's dive in. Although he looks like a very distinguished mid-30s gentleman, and he sounds like a very seasoned 82-year-old Warren Buffett, he's actually 22 fucking years old. And before we started recording, you were talking about the seasons of life that I'm in. And I'm like, bro, I was getting blacked out in college when I was 22 years old. So I want to hear about how the hell you have gone through many seasons of life all the way leading up to 22.
Right. Well, for me, a lot of those seasons came through circumstance. I got placed in those situations rather than choosing to be in them.
Tell me the backstory.
Especially in the upbringing. So my backstory starts as follows. I'll try to keep neat and sweet. I was born in Russia, Moscow, Russia. My parents are both Russian, so I'm fully Russian. My parents got divorced when I was 2. And I was living in Russia until about 6, 7, and then we moved to a different part of Russia that was kind of not Moscow center. We moved about an hour outside of cities like New York City, Long Island dynamic.
Now this is season 1, and you're 2 years old. Okay, cool. Are you leading the move here yet, or have you taken the CEO role yet in your life?
No.
Oh, okay, cool.
We don't get there until like 16.
Oh, okay, right? Okay.
So I was going to school in Russia. Long story short, until 13, I was living there, and my parents were divorced, going back and forth. My mom wanted to bring me to America earlier to pursue higher education there, but my dad wanted to be in my life, and they were kind of fighting for the first 12, 13 years of my life, going back and forth, because my dad was like, don't take my son away. I'm going to support and pay for school and all those certain things. And, I want him close. So he was present in my life, but I can't say really that I had a father figure growing up, just because he came maybe twice a month or once a month to like hang out for a couple of hours on a weekend, do homework with me. But long story short, I was hitting that 11, 12-year-old mark, and I was very addicted to playing video games. And my mom was like, well, I got to do something about that.
What game?
I was playing Team Fortress 2, CSGO, PC games, mostly never played Xbox or like console games. I don't think I have the eye-to-hand or hand-eye coordination. I can't be doing that. I need to be keyboard mouse. It's just always more to me.
I see the budding of the day trader starting already.
And then also, I guess we'll touch up on it later, but now that I have self-awareness where I'm at right now, I'm like, why am I the way I am? I also really enjoyed playing Legos when I was a kid, and
me too.
into, where I'm at with real estate development and all that stuff of my, creative expression through real estate. So we'll touch up on that later. Long story short, mom pulled the trigger to take me away from my dad and bring me to America at 13 years old to pursue higher education here, because they both grew up in a communist Russia, and for them, education was the sole and only path to freedom. So they thought, hey, you need to get educated properly in the Western world, get a good job, and that's going to be the good foundation. He's not going to have to go through.
And where did you move to when you moved to the States?
My mom brought me to Long Island, New York. She had one friend that she knew in all of America, and she pretty much talked to them. They said the school district was good. Their daughter was probably 6, 7 years older than I am.
Wow.
Went to the same school district, and she's like, okay, we're going to move close and go there. So I moved to a very Jewish neighborhood I'm kind of Jewish. I'm not, a Jew. I don't, keep kosher, go to synagogue, none of those things. But my dad's Jewish, my mom's Eastern Orthodox. No religion imposed in the house when I was growing up. Celebrate.
But you enjoy matzah,
both holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah, all that.
Okay.
So that was in a very Jewish neighborhood. Didn't really fit in. Number one, because I didn't speak proper English. Was brought from Russia. I had a basic understanding of English to get around, but didn't speak it well enough.
And you're how old? So you said 13.
So got picked on, bullied. So not only did I not fit into the American lifestyle, because I brought a soccer ball to the first football game I got invited to and was being looked at, who's a weirdo, right?
Wrong football. Yeah.
But I also didn't fit in culturally because everybody was, really, really Jewish. And I remember...
Like Hasidic Jew, like the payas type of...
There was different ones. Some Hasidic ones, but everybody, had Shabbat dinners on Friday nights and that kind of stuff. And I remember my birthday, my 13th birthday, I didn't have bar mitzvah or anything. It fell on a Friday. And I invited like 60, 70 kids from my grade to go bowling. And, my mom arranged for transportation to go to bowling. We were meeting at my house. 2 people showed up to my whole birthday. So, and now that I'm looking back at it, I'm like, should have probably not hosted on a Friday and should have had kosher food because everyone was coming up to you. Is there going to be kosher food? Is there going to be this and that? On a Friday. I'm like, oh, well.
Dreidel.
So since that was happening, I didn't really feel like I fit into the school environment. And I started running directly home from school the moment the last bell rang, instead of hanging out with the kids because I didn't feel accepted, didn't feel welcomed. And I would continue playing the video games that, I was playing and just, doing things on my computer. And I felt like I fit in more in the online world, making friends through video games because they didn't have any of those casted judgments upon you.
Sure.
Right? You can make a lot of friends. Nobody cares, what religion you are, where you're from. And, they don't get to know you on that kind of a level, but you can still make great friendships.
Yeah.
So from an early age, I was already like in the online world, networking, communicating with people, making friend groups online. So that was, I guess nothing new to me. Whereas to a lot of people, today, even they're like, wait, you met these guys from Instagram? Like my friend Joe that came here with me, he messaged me on Instagram. Now we're like best friends. Right?
Yeah.
To a lot of people, that's weird. To me, that was, natural and normal.
Sure.
It's easier than making friends in real life. I didn't really have any in-person real life good friends in America until I was like 17, 18.
Okay.
So not only that, but I was playing these video games and I started getting into the communities of the video games and also the virtual items that they have in games, which is a very important aspect of my life because I was collecting those, skins and knives and weapons in game. Yeah. And then I realized that I can sell them for money to other people. There's FIFA cards and all those things that people spend money on. I'm like, I can sell some of those. So I started really, spending time acquiring those things and selling them to people. And the first time I did that, I was probably 15 and a half, around 16, where somebody paid me $15 for a virtual item that I pretty much farmed in a game. And at that point, it's a very pivotal point in my life because it proved to me that strangers on the internet are willing to hand you money.
Yeah.
Right. And that was, I guess, the very set foundation.
How were you accepting payments?
I created a PayPal account. I put my birthday, but a different year I was born. And then little do you know, I now have like 17 banned PayPal accounts because I wasn't 18 at the time. So I had to get a new phone number to erase all of that. I was a 15 and a half, 16-year-old wanting to get paid on PayPal.
Yeah.
That was the only way. But then actually, now that you brought it up, looking through the ways to accept payments, since I've had so many PayPal accounts shut down, I stumbled up on crypto because a lot of people were my age, 16, 17, under 21, under 18, playing those games. They wanted to transact, but none of them could because of the limitations that PayPal had. You have to be 18, you have to verify ID, all those things. Yeah. We didn't have a lot of that stuff. So a lot of people were bringing up crypto, which made me look into crypto at the age of like 16, 17. So 2016, 2017, that's when I remember the first time I heard about Bitcoin was when it was about $350. So that was that. I didn't end up purchasing any until it was like $900,000 a coin. But through 3.5 years or so, from 15 to 18, playing those video games, I've amassed and sold and bought and sold probably between $12,000 and $15,000 worth of online items. Although it seems like, that's a lot of money to, making a video game. You got to realize it's a 3-year span. So it's like,
were you doing anything else to make money at that point?
I mean, I was editing pictures. I was shoveling snow on the weekends, like doing, the typical stuff. But I just enjoyed having the ability to work kind of when I want, because I could play video games and like do those things, people in Asia or in Europe or in America at like 1 a.m. or on a Friday night, right? And I was socially awkward really socially awkward until probably 18, 19, when I really just had a new beginning in college where I had to, put myself out of that comfort zone and work through that and then through the events. And if I had the opportunity to not be in a public setting or environment, I chose that. Right? So that was kind of my.
That's why you and I get along so well. Yeah.
My story until 18. So then I graduated that school in New York, went off to college in Adelphi University. It was a 3-2 program with Columbia University. It's like you spend 3 years at this, not so prestige school. And then if you do well, you get transferred to Columbia University, which is an Ivy League school. And then you become an engineer.
Yeah.
And, both were private schools. My mom obviously couldn't afford to pay, so I was going to acquire a lot of debt, and I didn't want to be an engineer. I realized that about 6 months into it. So in her mind, in my mom's mind, engineering, safe job, pays a lot of money, consistent. But as you know, today with like ChatGPT and all those things, a lot of those things have gotten proved wrong. So went to freshman year of college in New York, had a new start, had to be more social, didn't have those casted memories from when I was 13 implied on me, and had a new start, got to experience a little bit more of what it's like to be a real human in the real world, not in the bedroom, just playing video games and talking to strangers on the internet. So that was cool. And then I realized that I really dreaded my life and didn't look forward to waking up or going anywhere. Switched my major to business the second semester of freshman year. And at that time I was ready again, still doing the video game stuff, not as much, got a little bit into crypto because I was like, oh, people are, transacting with this more and more and more. Let me learn a little bit more about that. Then was already dabbling in the stock market as well, because crypto stocks kind of similar. I was like, I made, $12,000, $15,000. I want to double this money. I don't want to trade, items.
Were you living at home during this time or were you? Okay.
I was living at home. So we always rented. My mom never had enough money to buy a house. So we were renting.
So your expenses were relatively low.
Yeah, I had no overhead expenses.
Yeah.
So it was like food, or if I chose to go out with friends somewhere, which didn't happen very often. That. And I wasn't traveling. Had a beater car. We both shared. So that was pretty cool and very humbling for me. Little backstory, I guess. When I lived in Russia, I got to taste two different worlds, because in Russia the dollar goes a lot farther, and when I lived in Russia, we had about a 12,000 square foot home, and I went to private school, and I had a person that drove me to and from school, and his wife cooked meals for us and like folded my clothes. So I got to experience kind of both polarities. And guess what? Like the couple that was working for us, they were both working 6 days a week and making about $700, $800 a month for that work, because again, the dollar goes so much farther there. If you made, back when I was living there, between $5,000 and $15,000 a month, you were considered like the top, 1%.
Yeah,
you were a big baller there, right?
Interesting.
So, and then when I came, here, the income that my parents had didn't change, but what you can get with that money changed drastically.
Yeah,
you no longer have
especially in New York,
right? A 12,000 square foot mansion with a maid and a cook, and somebody to drive you to school and pick you up from school. So it was a lot of maturing, a lot of responsibility. Since that was taken away from me, I had to learn, from age of 12, how to cook, how to do laundry, how to do all those things, because again, I did those things. Now I have to, by circumstance, not by choice. I didn't choose to. I was put in a place where, hey, this is no longer available. But to fast forward to where we were at, I transitioned to the business degree, was driving to and from school already, listening to business podcasts. I was very business minded because of the experiences with virtual games and stuff. And I was dabbling in the stock market. I was taking a macroeconomics class, and one day my professor was talking about the stock market, the economy, how all of that works. And I was already trying to trade stocks like Tesla on my side. Again, not losing a lot of money, didn't have a lot of money to trade with in the first place. Went up to him after the class and I said, hey, I'm really, really passionate about this. I see myself doing this. I want to get better. I'm currently trading, Tesla. I wanted to get your personal take and opinion, what I should be doubling down on. Should I buy more shares? And he said something that really resonated with me. He said, Simon, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I can't give you any advice on whether you should buy more Tesla or sell it or do anything else, because I'm personally not invested in the stock market. My wife doesn't let me trade or invest. She thinks it's gambling. And I was like, I'm sitting in a class, I'm asking a debt of 45 to 50 grand a year, learning from a professor who makes 50 grand a year, drives a 1996 Toyota Camry, and has never started a business. And his wife doesn't let him trade or invest. Why should I take trading or investing advice from him? And at that point, a light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, if the professor is a tree and the students that are learning and sitting in class are the apples that grow on the tree, and you have a shitty tree, the apples are going to turn out shitty. Right?
Yeah.
The apple doesn't fall far away from the tree. So I was like, I need to still get educated, but I need to change the source of where I'm getting the information from.
Yep.
So this is where I decided enough of this. I'm not going to amass this data anymore. I still need to get educated. I just want to change the source. So I dropped out of school, made the decision to drop out of school. Wasn't taken well. My mom still, till this day, wants me to go back to school to get cultured and educated. Because again, the way she was raised, this is the only way. And she wants me to, be well-rounded.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But anywho, decided I need to change the source of how I get educated. And I decided to go to business events to learn from people who actually had businesses.
Hey,
so
what an idea.
Let me see what's around there. And that was right around the time when 10X Growth Conference 3 with Grant Cardone was going on. And I spent a decent chunk of change to buy a flight from New York to go to Miami, hotel, transportation, 3-day ticket to go to the Growth Con, probably spent like $5-6 grand. And I didn't have, probably all I had was 20-25K saved up in total from, all the hustles and everything I did in summer jobs as a lifeguard and shoveling and all that stuff. I went there and I was like, hey, this is great. This is an improvement of where I came from. They were definitely better than my college professor, but I didn't resonate with the event so much for a couple of reasons. And I was there already like taking notes of not only what the speakers were talking about, but also what I liked about the environment and what I didn't like about the environment I was learning from. Yeah, the flaws I was able to observe at the event was a couple of things. Number one, at the event, there was 30,000 people. There's no way I can go up to Grant or one of the speakers like Ty Lopez or somebody and sit them down and be like, hey, this is my trading account or this is my real estate portfolio. Can you give me personalized advice? What I also realized is that a lot of the speeches and things that the speakers were talking about were motivational bullshit and fluff. Because it's supposed to be a one-size-fits-all type of thing. You can't give, any practical or more in-depth advice because you have people from different countries, people that have $10 million businesses, people who don't have a business in the same room, right? And then, the other thing I didn't like is how with every single attendee that while I was there, I exchanged business cards. I didn't have a business card at the time, but I took everyone's business cards. And at the end of the night, I went to the hotel and I had a stack probably this thick of business cards. And I looked through them. It was just names and phone numbers. And I'm like, I don't remember who any of these people are. I don't remember what they look like, where they're from, or for a matter of fact, what they do or what I can even help them with. Why do I have all this bullshit? So it's a very transactional, here, take a business card, hopefully we do some business.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is better than college, but this is not what I want. And I can envision this better. I want to create something. So to backtrack, I was like, let me create something that would fit my needs and where I can learn the way I want to learn, because I couldn't really find a model where I could learn from people who are successful, but also in a way that in the delivery mechanism that I thought would be great. So I'm like, fuck all this. Let me do this myself. Let me try to figure it out. And I was like, I'm going to host my own event. I'm going to invite speakers. And again, I didn't know any speakers, didn't know anything about hosting events. I have a, concept of FTFO, figure it the fuck out. Right. And, 3 months later, after that conference, I hosted my first event. I picked a name. I was like, what do I call this? I was like, I want it to be a networking conference. I'm like, NetCon. Let's go with it. Right.
Beautiful.
So that's how NetCon in the beginning, my company was born. After going to this event, figuring out that this is cool, but I could do it better. I wrote down all the things that I didn't resonate with. I picked a name, went with it. I met a couple of people at the event over there in 10X. One of them was Fernando Valencia. I don't know if you know of him, but he ended up emceeing our event. He was big in the event space. And then I leveraged that connection and he ended up introducing me to a couple of more speakers. My buddy Joe Steiber just reached out through Instagram saying, hey, I'm from Philly. So you're hosting this event. Somebody brought it up. Well, here's what I do. Let's hop on a call. Got a speaker. Then he posted on his social media and pretty much just ended up leveraging those connections. Because for those people, it was valuable to be on stage to position themselves as an authority figure, get more clients, customers. For me, it was like, I get to learn from all those people. I don't have a business or a lot of experience yet. I get to host an event and learn from the process of hosting an event. And I get to meet a lot of awesome people and build my brand as well and piggyback off of everybody. And it was a big, learning process.
This is like 4 years ago, right?
Yeah, this was literally 3 months after the Growth Con. I actually got home the next morning. I'm like, let me do this on my own.
Wow.
3 months later, we packed a room with 13 speakers, full day event from like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. A little bit over 75 attendees that all paid between $200 and $1,000 to be there. Figured out, how to host an event. So that was that. What was different from the events that I really wanted to implement in my event was number one, the attendees to speaker ratio. We had 12 speakers, about 75 attendees. So we had about a 1-to-7 attendee to speaker ratio. We also had panels and breakout sessions because I felt like the need for me personally, when I was at grants event, I was like, I want to be close to the speakers. I want to have the ability to ask them questions that resonate with me, and get help on my personal stuff. So we literally had kids and people who are getting into the space come up to the speakers, sit down in a group of like 5, 6, 7, whip out their laptops and be like, hey, here's my Shopify dashboard. What buttons do I click to increase conversion? So here's my ad manager. Take a look at these ads and let me know what I can improve on. So that was the change that we made. That was the biggest thing. The other thing, which I still get a lot of shit for, but that's just the way I guess I rock, is neither myself nor any of the speakers were allowed to, or till this day are allowed to, sell any products or services from stage. So the other thing I didn't resonate with Grant's event was the fact that it was a pitch fest. Every speaker went on stage and said, I made $1 million doing X, Y, and Z. If you want to learn, you got to buy my course or program. I was like, I'm 18 years old at the time. I spent 1/3 of my net worth to come to the event, and now I have to spend more money just to learn the stuff that I was promised I was going to learn in the first place. Right? And that just didn't sit right with me. I'm like, I'm not going to do that to people because I was in that position. So obviously that eats a lot into the margins of hosting events. You probably know.
I do, yeah.
Right? And events for me at this point are more of a passion project. They're not, so much for profit to make as much money.
Yeah.
But if those people find the content, information, the relationship you build with them valuable, I think that they will inevitably stumble up on your product or service, or dig deeper to inquire if you have something to help them, solve their issues and problems. Right.
Yeah.
You don't have to be in their face, completely like selling it. Meet me in the back of the room, fill out the credit card form. So, that's how our event stood out from all the other.
And how many events have you hosted like this now?
In that year, we hosted 5 events.
Okay.
We had 3 events in New York. We had one in Hamptons, one in Tribeca, one in Los Angeles. The one in Los Angeles was big. We had a 3-day event, great speakers. Again, I was 18, 19-year-old, just turned 19, hosting these events and having speakers like Dan Fleischman at my event, Jeff Seckinger, Robbie was speaking at my event. And again, looking back at that point, I had no business that was really making money. I was doing pretty well trading as well. I was, because event, you just host one event every couple of months. All the extra time I was still developing my skill, learning from people.
Where were you learning trading?
Online, seminars, courses, events, and through losing money. Just throwing money at the screen, figuratively speaking. And,
so were you still playing video games, or did that become your new video game?
Yeah, that became my new, I guess, obsession.
Yeah.
I stopped playing video games right as I entered college.
Okay.
Right. Had to get more social. So hosted that event in LA, and then the pandemic hit, and I had to again pivot, and that's where a new season kind of my life began, where I got more into focusing on the online trading stuff and coaching people through Nikon trading.
At this point, let me pause you. How much were you making trading at this point?
Trading depends. I had months where I was red and I lost money, but I had my first multiple 5-figure month was when I was just about to turn 20.
Okay. God damn. Yeah. So you put your foot on the accelerator in the last couple of years, it seems. It's like aggressively.
Yeah.
So holy shit.
A lot to digest.
Well, you've basically taken about 15-year journey and condensed it into about 4, which is it's interesting. As I'm listening to you talk, I'm like, cool. A lot of the same realizations. So when I was in college, I dropped out as well. Same thing. My finance professor, I was nowhere near I'm thinking about investing. I played golf in college and I majored in beer and girls. Okay. So but I also was sitting in these classes going like, first of all, I don't really understand or have context as to why I even should be interested in this. But I also was listening to this finance professor in the business school talk about things, and I saw him pull up in a beater. You know what I mean? I never really asked about it or had a conversation. It was just kind of one of those things where this doesn't make any fucking sense. And so a lot of the same realizations that you had as well. But I'm curious for you, it seems as though there wasn't a whole lot of resistance along the way in terms of for me, for example, my first attempt began when I was 22. I'm 33. Right. And so for 8 years did a lot of wrong things, fucked over myself in every way, shape, and form. And you might put it in the self-sabotage bucket. So it seems as though you went real fast. What do you attribute that to?
So in terms of resistance, and motivation to accomplish certain things, there's a push-pull motivation. Those two are very drastically differently. I feel as though I had a lot more pull motivation where something pulled me to it. I didn't have to.
Where did that come from?
That came from growing up with my mom, seeing a single mom, and being, again, my circumstance placed in a position where I got to see my mom from, especially when we moved from Russia to America, how back in Russia, everything was cool. You can afford things. And now it's much tougher. We don't own a house. We're renting and landlords are knocking on your door. And she did a very good job of hiding that and not showing that. But I deep down knew that, hey, she's opening envelopes and she's looking at the bill, $350 electric bill. And she's like, holy shit, that's, 20% of everything we have for the month.
In Russia, were your parents, were they business owner? Like, what did they do to earn an income? I also have some questions about how business works in a communist country.
Sure. Right now it's different, but I'll briefly tell you a story about my dad so you kind of get an idea of how business really works. Or used to work back then. So my dad made it, I guess, fairly far in business in Russia. He had a billboard advertising company in Moscow. So all those big, huge billboards. But obviously closer to 07, 08, when Google and Facebook and digital advertising were popping off, that kind of took him out of business. But he was able to build up a decent amount of wealth in Russia with the billboard advertising company that he had, which he put into some, buying the house me and my mom lived in, so we didn't have any, expenses, for housing and things of that nature, and just, stashing away some money here and there. Obviously, when you transition that to America, that's pennies over here compared to what it gets you there. Story in terms of how business is done there. He had a business partner, and that was in 2001. I was 1 years old. And then this mafia guy walks into their office in Moscow and says, hey,
do you wish that you had the limitless pill? Well, this 100K a month thinking system might just be the next best thing. If you're feeling frustrated and stuck in your business, you just want to operate at the level that you know that you're capable of, I'd like to invite you to click the link in the description and get instant access to my 7-figure mindset secret system, where I'm going to walk you through step by step everything that you need to start thinking like a millionaire and begin seeing shifts in your business in 24 hours or less. So go check that out, and let's get back to the show.
This mafia guy walks into their office in Moscow and says, hey, I see you guys are doing very well with this new venture thing. I want a third of the business. I want to be partners with you guys. My dad's business partner at the time said, fuck you. I don't know who you are. Get the fuck out. Right. About 2 weeks later, my dad and my business partner are in the back of a car. They have a driver driving them to wherever it is that they're going. They're at a traffic light. Somebody walks up to the car and shoots my dad's business partner in the head through the door, runs off, and they're never found.
Wow.
So, and then, a week after that, I'm living in a house, again, being a 1-year-old with, snipers and armed bodyguards on the roof of the house, just because, that's dangerous territory to be in. So,
yeah, that is...
So that kind of gives you a little.
There's a perspective shift
of how things are done, right?
Yeah,
we're done. Obviously, today a lot of that corruption, a lot of that is more monitored and enforced, but things are very different there than they are here.
So how logistically I'm just personally curious, because I haven't had a reason to study this extensively, because I don't live in well, I guess you could argue that it's turning into a communist country, but for right now, it's still a relatively free market compared to some. So how exactly, like when I think communism, I think universal income and redistribution and heavy taxes, and how the hell could you possibly make an enormous amount of money without having your legs chopped off constantly?
Well, the communism really fell apart in the early 90s when Soviet Union fell apart in 1991. So it's no longer been communist since then. So when the whole falling apart happened in 91, a lot of new opportunities became available due to that, because everything was kept within the country. There was no trade between, different nations and countries. And a little backstory short, before I was born, my parents both, lived in America for a couple of years. My mom has an older son from, he's my half brother. So,
okay.
How
much older?
Much older. Like
how much?
Let's say 18, 20 years older.
Okay. Because I recently was told about 2 years ago that I also have a half brother that I never was aware of, who I believe is 60.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow, indeed. Yeah. Anyway, continue.
So my mom already had experience living in the U.S. and she saw the drastic shift, of how things are done in the U.S. and then how things are done back home in Russia. So before I was born, she lived in the U.S. for a couple of years, and then she ended up actually staying in the U.S. And my dad was in Russia again before I was born. He was just setting up his advertising business, and again, before 2000s, there was none of those digital screens. Everything was, you put a wooden pole, you get a sticker, and you hammer it to the wooden pole. That was advertised back then. Yeah. But she saw, she was in New York, she saw Times Square, all those places. She's like, holy shit, there's those big screens and billboards. Let's start something like that back home. And she was the contact to import all those things from the US to Russia when in 1991, Soviet Union fell apart. Now the country is, more free to import stuff and export stuff. And she was, helping my dad build the business by having those connections in the US, like 3M and all those, nobody's ever heard of 3M in Russia before like 2000, by sending all those materials and supplies over, she was in the US, and he was there and they were, importing those things over there. Right? Yeah. So in the, couple of years that they had success with until Google and Facebook and all those things started racking up, I guess for Russia, they were able to get ahead, decently well.
So how is that similar or different to like when I think, like communist China, like, is that pretty much the same type of a structure from what you understand?
I don't want to talk on it because especially right now, just because I haven't been back since I was about 14. Actually, so I have dual citizenship. I have Russian and American citizenship. Okay. I can't actually go back right now because you're mandatorily drafted to go serve in the military in Russia. So if I go back right now, they wouldn't let me out of the country until I serve 2 years, and I don't want to end up in Ukraine or anywhere.
I don't blame you. So I don't blame you.
That's actually, we'll touch up in a little matter, but I'm trying to get more citizenships and have exit plans. Strategies. In March, I'm going to Dubai and Israel to, do a couple of things of that nature over there, just to have an exit strategy in case things go south over here. So. Yeah.
Well, that's, I guess, my kind of what I'm thinking too, and why I'm like, I know enough to know that I'm not a complete ignorant person, probably more than most. But I'm also like, well, if let's say this country heads that direction, how does it work? What's the game plan?
Well, for me, I have, passport in that country, and I'm trying to get more passports to be able to.
But it's kind of like going from one shitty place to another then, right?
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm going to Dubai to get an Emirati citizenship right now.
Yeah. Okay. So you can move there?
I will be doing some investments there. I believe, again, don't quote me. From what I understand, I have a couple of people helping me who are local there. And I do have, family members, distant family members who are like in Israel. So I'm going to be kind of exploring those two options, seeing which one fits.
What do you know about how business and whatnot works there in terms of free market and taxes? And I know there's no taxes.
Yeah, well, in terms of taxes, there's 0% tax completely in Dubai.
Yeah,
not just business tax, 0% capital gains, 0% across the board. Right. In terms of becoming a citizen and all those things, again, I'm doing my research as we speak, and I'll be meeting with the legal people that are involved there when I go there. But from my understanding, you need to make an investment if you are a foreigner of about an equivalent of $350K US into property there. And then you get granted a 2-year, business/citizen status. And then that also can be transferred over to family members. And from there, you pretty much can make a couple more, moves. And hopefully in that 2 years, you open more businesses there and prove yourself to be.
So basically the cost of entry of citizenship is $350K
from my understanding right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, I haven't walked the
I'm going to hold you to every word you're saying right now and shove this video in your face. No.
So if it's 400, don't quote me.
Yeah. Inflation by the time this is all finalized, it'll be 400, I promise. Also, this is not legal or citizenship advice. Interesting. So you have listening to you and listening to like Icon. I'm sure you've heard some of his stories. That dude has some stories. You at 22 have some insane stories. That he's what, 25, something like that.
25. Correct.
Yeah.
We were just at dinner 2 days ago, and he's very expressive and
is he
loud.
Icon, no,
bro,
expressive and loud.
That's Icon for you.
That is Icon. So you've been around. Even though your experience age is much older than your body age at this point, and you've been around and seen and talked to a lot of people from around the world. And in the interest of kind of the theme of this show, in terms of what really is going on, from the things that people see on social media of like, oh, it's really quick and easy to do business stuff. I'm curious, what is the number one biggest lie that you've seen being fed to the aspiring or current business owner community?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that to reach new levels, you gotta do new things. You can't be doing the same things that got you, let's say, to 100K a year or a month. Those same things are not going to get you to a million or 10 million. So there is a lot of new learning, new experiences, and a lot of pivoting involved. That's why, again, I started in the event space. Then I went all in during the pandemic, trading, and then building a business around consulting and coaching with trading. And now I've taken a step back from that actually and pivoted a lot into real estate development, short-term rentals, because again, things that got me here won't get me there where I'm trying to head. If you want to touch on that.
Yeah, I'm curious how you,
and why this happened.
Because there's so many people that are like, I've been pivoting and I still suck. You pivot and you keep crushing it. So how do you decide what to pivot into, and how do you not get distracted with, I'll say making it kind of like a shiny object syndrome type of a thing? Like, how do you seem to have confidently and correctly made those calls, whereas most don't.
Well, the thing is, they still come at a price, whether it's missed opportunity costs in the thing you're pivoting from or just learning lessons. Like right now, I'm building a lot of, real estate for tax purposes because I got hit with a very hefty tax bill. So the reason I pivoted from, I was trading for myself, getting a lot of capital gains income, which you can't really offset with a lot of things. And long story short, 2020, 2021, I did very well and I got hit with a little bit over $500,000 tax bill. Okay. There was no way for me to reduce that. I was like, I can have my foot, keep pressing on the gas and keep scaling that, and let's say make double the amount of money next year. If I'm, continuing to press on the gas with all that I have, right? But then I'm just going to pay double in taxes. I'm going to pay $1 million in taxes now, or even more, right? So I'm like, before I continue with this, let me take half a step back. Let me pivot slightly. Let me address this situation, which is, kind of the anchor on the other side, drag me down, which was the large tax bill. And then I can deviate back to this and continue scaling full force, knowing that I will no longer have that anchor resistance and something in the back of my head that, will be dragging me down, which is that tax liability. So I pivoted from, making a lot of money trading full time. I'm a day trader scalper. So I'm on the charts pretty much Monday through Friday at market open, spending 30, 40 minutes, in and out of positions, coaching people how to do the same. I do not run any signal services, so we do not tell people buy this, sell this. The reason for that is a couple of things. Number one is I didn't work hard for your money, so I should not be the sole decision maker as to what happens to it. Number two is a lot of signals chats and things of that nature do not work, because by the time I type out what I'm buying and what I'm selling, the trade is most of the time already completed or done. Right. Number three is everybody has different personalities. Different personalities in trading, and then also trading with a different amount of money. Right? So for example, if I'm trading with $100,000 and you're trying to copy the same thing with $5,000,
right? And
I go into a trade knowing that, hey, with my 100K account, I'm okay to take a $3,000 loss on this trade because I'll be left with $97,000. I can continue trading and, I'm not fucked. Right? If you go do the same thing with your $5,000 account and take the same exact trade, you lost $3,000. Well, you lost more than half your account now, and it's so much harder to recover. So the difference in that is what people, again, don't realize. They're like, oh, let me just copy your trade. I'm like, there's so many different variables here. Number one is the timing. Number two is our account size is different. So just the same exact trade might be good for me. It may not be good for you.
Makes sense.
So
how do you have there's so much self-awareness that's involved in knowing, like, you seem to have an ability to zoom out and really look objectively at, seemingly everything in your situations. I'm curious, where did you learn that? Where did you model that? Was it just common sense for you?
A lot of it is, I guess, upbringing, looking at my mom, weigh decisions from, hey, should we stay in Russia? Should we move to America? She's very objective in the way she thinks, and she always tries to, look at two sides. The other stuff is just, for me, I'm not the type of person that is 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I always burn the ships and go all in on something. And I want to emphasize on that. And then if things don't work, I burn that ship and, create a new ship, build a new ship, right? So for me, let's say with trading, a lot of people are like, oh, I want to get into trading. And then they open a paper trading account and they, show up maybe twice a week and, click a couple of buttons. They're like, oh, I don't really like this. Let me try marketing. For me, it was like, skip paper trading. Put real money on the table, start trading, start losing money, get slapped in the face a lot of times, start funding more money, learn a lot of hard lessons the hard way. And then, push through that, succeed faster. By doing that, I pay with money to save time and compress those learning lessons that a lot of people just take, 8 months or a year to figure out. Same with, let's say, real estate right now. A lot of people hit me up or think that, hey, he's this real estate guru. He has 11 properties. He's developing. I've only been doing real estate for about 16 months to address the tax bill. I just completed first construction of 4 properties. We just closed into 3 refinances we're doing for them. But the thing is, for a lot of people, let's say they want to get into Airbnb or real estate development, they may go like, oh, I'm going to arbitrage a 1-bedroom apartment for $2,000 a month and I'll re-rent it and do that and I'll start off small. For me, it was like, burn all the ships. I'm going to build 4 luxury Airbnbs, 3,000 plus square feet each. And again, no prior experience whatsoever. I'm going to go all in and figure it the fuck out. Right. Same with, setting up Airbnbs. We're setting up 5 luxury Airbnbs as we speak right now, with quote unquote no prior experience. Obviously, I have the network, I've observed, I've documented the things, but I fail forward. Right? Yeah. And I don't do this, 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
So on the question, what's the number one lie that you see getting sold? I don't know that I caught the exact answer. What do you feel as though the number one lie and that gets sold to business owners or aspiring business owners? Maybe I missed it exactly.
I believe my answer, and I still stand by that, is the fact that it's a straightforward line.
Okay.
And you pretty much learned, it's like learning the alphabet A through Z. It's never A through Z. You learn, letter A, then letter G, then somewhere in between.
Now, why do you think that lie gets sold?
Well, because if everything is a straight path and there's little resistance, it's easier to market to people. It's easier to drag people in, sell them, products and services and businesses, because I don't remember the exact book. There is the cycle, the emotional cycle of change, right? There is, again, oversimplifying it, but it starts as following. There is uninformed optimism. That's where it starts. So first, you don't know anything about something. Let's say I'm scrolling on social media, someone talks about trading options, and you're like, well, he seems to be making 6 figures a month trading options. I don't know anything about it. This sounds cool, right? And then you keep going down the rabbit hole, or researching into it. And then let's say you buy a course, you get into it and you start reading more up on it. And then the next phase is informed pessimism. You're like, now you're getting a little bit more informed and gaining information. You're like, shit, this is much harder than I anticipated, right? Yeah. And you keep working at it. And then a lot of people hit this kind of plateau, very bottom point, which is the valley of despair, as the book describes it. And this is the cycle where a lot of people revert back. They hit the valley of despair, as the book refers to it, is the lowest point where you're losing money. It's much harder than you thought. You're like, fuck, I thought I'll be a successful trader in 3 months. It's been, 5 months and I'm still breaking even or not making any money. What the fuck, right? Yep. And then this valley of despair is where people revert back to the beginning cycle and get the shiny object syndrome of, uninformed optimism. And then they pivot and they're like, oh, digital marketing. There's the digital marketing ad. I don't know anything about it. Seems cool. Seems easy. People are talking about making money with it. And then they repeat the same cycle over and over and over again. But the thing is, if you persevere and push through the valley of despair and continue at it, right, it's a matter of time, right? For some people, it's 12 months. For some people, it's 18 months. For some people, it might be 5 years. Yeah. Right? You never know. But the curve starts steeping in the right direction, and now you are getting closer to that success, right? Yeah. In whatever craft that is. So a lot of people quit too early because things get hard, and then just pivot. Then, in terms of pivoting, you said, when is the right time for people to pivot? It's only when you're on the steep curve up already. You're not. A lot of people start pivoting at the valley of despair when things get tough and things are not working. You haven't made any money yet. That's a wrong time to pivot, because you're pivoting for no fucking reason, because things didn't work out, or things got tough. Yeah,
it's an interesting dynamic, right? Because on the marketing side, it's almost like, well, is it? I ask myself this question because, I mean, it seems as though to get things to convert, you have to skirt the line of it's going to be an easy straight line, while also not setting unrealistic expectations and delivering, shit on the back end and disappointing everybody.
Well, similar to the value equation that Hormozy talks about. You have the dream outcome. You want to make it big and fancy and cool, and then you have the effort and sacrifice. You want to make that as little as possible, and then you have time delay. Also, you want to cut that as short as possible. Right. So those are 3 of the 4 variables. Yeah. And, so if you market it as, hey, it's going to take you, 4 days, 7 days, 30 days, whatever. Yeah. Right. And then you also make the promise so big, it is oftentimes unrealistic, right, for people to hit it, but they're so brainwashed into just, again, the outcome of in 30 days, I'm going to be X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Like that transformation.
So how would you, if you were going to redo marketing in this industry and how would you, would you feel as though it'd be a useful thing to reverse that cycle? Or do you think that just is fine and that continues and it separates?
Well, it depends whose eyes and whose perspective you're looking from. If you're looking at it from the perspective of the person who's selling the thing, then in your selfish interest, it may be better to keep it the way it is right now to make a lot of money, right? If you're looking at it from a perspective of people who know nothing and are trying to get into something, obviously you want to change it. For me personally, I feel like I have such a cult following, and a lot of clients from my personal brand is because I'm very upfront, very straight to the point, and I tell people what they don't want to hear about trading. So when I post about my content, first of all, I'm very transparent. I post all my losses. I post, hey, today I lost $16,000 trading. Number one, a lot of people on social media in the trading world, and I know it happens in every different industry, post, hey, I made $6,000 today, $2K the next day, $500 the day after that, post green days for 20 days straight, and then they go quiet for 4 or 5 days. And I'm like, did you actually go on vacation with your mom, or did you just have a red day and you didn't want to post about it?
Yeah.
What really happened there?
Yeah.
So that's number one. How I approach it, I always, in my content say, hey, this isn't a get rich quick scheme. This is going to take 18 to 24 months of getting your ass handed to you and getting slapped in the face. And, it's not,
you and I are much similar in that fashion. I made that mistake with we grew our agency to 400 clients in like 8 months. That's way too fast, and we did all the wrong shit. And that luckily I was still able to sell it, but a lot of hard lessons on that in terms of improper expectation setting and whatnot.
In terms of character traits for the entrepreneurs that need to be successful, whether it's marketing or trading, I believe there's 2 really important ones. It's the ability to manage one's expectations, because if you go into things with expectations, you will get disappointed. There's a high chance of getting disappointed or not getting what you want. And number 2 is perseverance. When you get slapped in the face, being able to be like, well, this didn't work, let me try again. And you get slapped again, let me get up and try again. Right? A lot of people get slapped to the ground 4 times and they're like, well, kind of hurts. Let me be a little bitch and try something else. Right?
Yeah. For everybody watching this who wants to get to the next level and is trying to find the easiest, fastest, seamless way possible, reset every business owner or aspiring business owner's expectations right now on entrepreneurship.
I would say whatever it is you are pursuing, whether it's marketing, trading, e-commerce, your sole focus for the first 2 to 3 years before you have reached a level of success should not be the outcome that you are chasing, which is making money or getting a lot of customers. It should be the process and getting better at whatever particular craft you are pursuing. For me in trading, when I got into it, I didn't care whatsoever about making 10K a month or making, $1,000 a day. All I cared about is I want to get better at this. I want to understand why I'm making mistakes. I want to understand what I can do better to improve. I treated it as a game, right? Not, the outcome that I'm pursuing, which inevitably caught up to it, right? It's just a matter of time for it to catch up, right?
So tell me, so I know kind of where that comes from in terms of the video game, and now this is just a game that puts money in your bank account.
Right.
What is it that drives you at this point to continue playing that game?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, I still want to provide the life for my parents for the sacrifices that they have made. So, for example, like right now, I had the ability, and I'm super, grateful for what they've sacrificed for me to buy my mom a waterfront condo for $1 million cash. I just, wrote the check, said, hey, you never have to worry about a mortgage payment ever again. I'll take care of everything. Right. So things of that nature. Number 2 is traveling the world. I want to be able to see different places and, be able to not only do so, but be able to on my own terms and how I want to travel and pick a company I want to travel with and, pick the transportation methods I want to, pick and things of that nature. So pretty much the basic definition of freedom, like, do what I want with who I want, whenever I want. So that's applicable. Number 3 would be, the impact side of it. I've had, I didn't mention that with the events, especially that I hosted at my 4th event in Los Angeles. I had a kid come up to me talking about his other friend that he brought to the event, and he introduced us. I was talking to the kid, and again, at the time I was 20. I wasn't,
the grandpa, the wisdom of Grandpa Simon.
And he was, I believe, either 17 or 18. That was his first event. He didn't know anything about entrepreneurship. And by getting to know him, he told me that he was in a miserable place, both financially and mentally, had to sell furniture to buy a ticket to my event. And long story short, he told me, hey, dude, you maybe reconsider committing suicide. Wow. So for me, I was like, wow, my events and my efforts and the conference I hosted can have an impact of this magnitude in somebody. And guess what? There's probably other people sitting in a room who have had maybe a similar or some sort of a transformation. And to me, I got a super blissful high from that, peak emotional experience that I was able to, provide for somebody. And I was like, I'm really kind of passionate about that. The way it made me feel to hear, the impact I was able to make on one's life. I want to have, more of those case studies, more of those experiences. Like this is what kind of gets me high, helping people achieve a transformation of, different kinds, whether it's transformation, of that magnitude where somebody didn't make a decision that they would have regretted and would have hurt a lot of people that love that person, or it's a transformation of like, hey, I was now able to retire my mom, or I was able to, understand why I was making mistakes. So just helping people make transformations in general is what really motivates me and drives me.
Gotcha. So do you have what's the big vision for Simon?
Big vision, long term, 50 years out is having an input. Obviously, I myself don't think I can change the whole thing, but reforming the educational system and being able to, especially the business side of education, not just, general sciences and biology and all those things, but the way people learn about business, right? And making that more accessible to people. So that's the big vision. So.
Gotcha. So much the same on my end. I'm curious how will you know when you've done that? Like looking back, if you put yourself, 50 on maybe 72-year-old Simon looks back and he goes, all right, I've achieved it because this happened.
Well, that's an interesting question that I do not have the answer to now. I just know that, our goal is to impact as many lives as possible. Through that, the impact is going to be up to those people themselves. It's not, up to me. It's based on their perception of the value that I was able to create, whether that will come from, commoditizing and making readily available online education and access to, mentors like me, you, and thousands of other mentors online for free to people, or whether it's through, building schools in underdeveloped countries like Nepal or where I come from in Russia, right? Delivery mechanism is still being worked on, but the mission stays the same. That we were working towards.
Fascinating. I love it. This is why you and I get along. We're speaking the same language, and we've never actually had this discussion. And I feel like I'm kind of listening to a mirror version of myself. This is kind of cool. When we talk about this reforming, education, we're kind of already starting to do that just over here in a pocket that's not regulated by some big body that's not us, right? But it creates this industry that's like very questionable at times, right? And I've seen we have a unique view into kind of the undercarriage of a lot of, at this point, over 1,000 businesses quite intimately. And you see, what the reality is for somebody and what is shown on social media is very, very different. I'm curious, is there a, also use the word scam or a misrepresentation or a misleading that you saw at some point in your journey so far that you were like, yo,
absolutely,
that's gnarly?
Absolutely. It happens
without naming names. Give me a story.
It happens on a weekly basis. I don't want to go down stories, but I'll tell you what we do to prevent those and serve our audience better. I'll actually give you a story. So at one of my Hamptons events, we had one of the speakers that was vouched for by another speaker, and the speaker that vouched for him was legit, but the person they vouched for didn't end up being, such a good boy, right? And he had quote unquote results in e-commerce and Shopify, and I'm openly talking about it because again, this was a learning experience for me and everybody else, and I'm sure people make those mistakes, and we've made positive changes since then. So at that second event, we had a speaker. He was on a panel talking about e-commerce, and then long story short, one of the attendees ended up enrolling into their program and figured out that it was complete bullshit and a scam and everything. I, out of my own pocket, compensated partially, and my friend Joe was able to work with the attendee later down the line when we found out that that happened. But from that experience, we now vet and screen all of our speakers that we allow on stage. So we
how do you vet them?
Collect tax returns and things of that nature. So we actually have people send in tax returns for individuals that are not already out there. So I'm not going to ask Dan Fleischman to send me his tax return. Because he, it's a well-known fact that at the age of 23, he was the youngest founder of a publicly traded company, and he, has businesses that are real. You can visit physical locations. But for somebody who's, a digital entrepreneur and says, I do well in e-commerce, I made $1 million on Shopify. I'm like, well, you could have made $1 million revenue with 30K profit. So let's see those, returns or,
So how, if somebody's listening to this or watching this, what advice would you have in terms of being able to spot bullshit?
Well, number one is training your BS meter, and the only way you train it is by getting scammed, unfortunately, and going through those experiences.
I agree with that.
So, get an Amex Platinum so you can actually have a better chance of charging back.
I also agree with that.
And, having some sort of customer protection. Sign contracts with people that you do business with or are trying to learn from. I know, for high-ticket coaching programs, sometimes, they make you sign a contract and make sure that that contract is favorable, where if they do not deliver a certain end, you have a tangible piece of leverage that you can then renegotiate and say, hey, you offer that, until you get me 5 paying clients, your service does not stop. And you said you're going to keep working with me. You've only helped me get 1, So either, we're going to have a problem, or you're going to have to help me get 4 more clients. Because clearly it says, I will continue working with you until you get 4 more clients. So things of that nature. And then number 3, I would say people now are starting to catch on a little bit with the personal brand stuff. Obviously, there's still people getting scammed left, right, and center, even to the Indian bots that DM you, hey, invest in crypto. I myself just got DM'd today by fake me. I'm like, why are you DMing me? You're pretending to be me. So
it's a bold move.
But people's BS meters are getting trained as we have been on social media more and more, and people are starting to get a little bit more self-aware. So like, I believe 90% of people already know that they're in a webinar, funnel. Before they even watch a whole 2-hour webinar, they're like, oh, this is the funnel I got to opt in. I'm going to be, sold something by the end of the webinar. So people are catching on, starting to be more self-aware, which is great, right? The other thing again would be making sure that the people you're learning from or taking advice from actually have results in that particular area. Similar to the professor in college, I didn't want to take advice from, and similarly, going to the gym, you wouldn't take advice from a 300-pound man on how to get a 6-pack, even though in theory, he may know all the right things to do to get a 6-pack, but he has not walked the talk. He, doesn't have the result that I'm going after, so I will not take advice from him. Similarly, in business, right? Somebody can be recording content about business advice and what you should do and shouldn't do, but guess what? If, they are not making money, I don't care what business advice you give me, I'm not going to be taking it because you're not where I want to be.
So how do you fact check that though, if you're just a person out there?
So particularly in my industry, I do this, my mentors I learned from do this. A lot of other people who educate do not do this. I upload my yearly P&L every single year publicly, and people can pretty much see, here's the amount of money that you made this year. This is confirmed brokerage statements showing that, hey, you made X amount of money. And I post it out there not to flex, but to show, hey, I actually do this shit. I actually do that. And if you want to follow along, if those results are what you want to go after, then please be my guest. Similarly, I was just speaking at an event in Mexico, and the first thing I showed on the screen, because I was a day late because I was refinancing 2 properties, was 2 wires coming in for a little bit north of 7 figures. And I said on stage, this is not like 5% of it is because I'm proud to have accomplished this at the age that I am, but 95% of this is just to show you guys that I actually do this shit. I'm not just talking about stuff. And I will be talking to you guys today about my experience, and I'm not going to be talking about things that I do not understand. So if you want to learn how to make 100 million in real estate, I'm not the guy to learn that from. If you want to learn how to get to $5 or $10 million in real estate, I can teach you that. I'm not going to be teaching you about multifamily because I have no experience there. I'm going to be only talking about things that I deeply have an understanding of and experience of. And that's also a good point to touch on, especially with public speaking, creating content, and being like shy on social media because people, doubt you, hate you, or whatever. I think a good advice for everybody would be only talking about things that you have experienced or have a deep understanding of, and pretty much keeping your nose out of things that you do not understand. The reason for that is because if you're talking about your personal experience, let's say I ate an omelet this morning and the eggs were shit. Nobody can come up to you and say that is false because you lived that and that happened and that is an event that was true in your life. Nobody can dispute or argue that, right? Whereas if you start talking about things you have no understanding of, somebody can be like, that's actually incorrect, or, I feel differently about it. But if you talk about things that you have done in your personal experiences, nobody out there can call you out and say this is incorrect because it's your experience. You went through it.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah, I'm with you totally on that. Because I have like we have a finances training that we give, and I'm just like, this is not the 9-figure training. This is not the 8-figure training. This is the few $1,000,000 training. So I think it's about the only way that it's possible to communicate without getting thrown in jail at some point. And speaking of that, I'm curious. I like, what Icon actually gave me this question, so I got to ask it because I like it. Is in this industry, what feels illegal but isn't?
in this industry of stock trading, real estate, digital marketing.
How about let's just go business. Let's just business in general. What feels illegal but isn't?
What feels illegal but isn't? Let's come back to this one. I'll be thinking about it in the back of my head while we're having other conversations.
I'll give you mine.
Yeah.
So, is being able to ask your target market what they want to buy, how they want to buy it, what they want to pay for it, and then you build that and sell it to them. So like in school, you're not allowed to copy off your neighbor or get the answer key to the test. In business, you can survey your target market.
I would say not only that, but to follow up on yours is to be able to get paid for something that you have not created or delivered yet. That is illegal to me. Like pretty much collecting deposits and proving the product market fit before you even have a case study testimonial or even have provided a service ever.
Yeah.
You can go on social media and say, hey, in 90 days, I'm going to give you access to this program, or, what would you like to learn about it? And then collecting payment for that and then building it out. Right.
Yeah.
So, that feels kind of illegal for me because anybody can right now go, if you have a LinkedIn or Instagram, Facebook presence, and, you do a lot of cold outreach even, or you have a warm audience, that's even better. You can collect $10, $50, $100,000 up front before even, having anything to give to those people whatsoever.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. That I like that. For you, I guess this is a good question for you, the market guy, looking at real estate, looking at stocks, looking at crypto. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but you seem to be a very diligent student of global markets of all kinds. I'm curious, as we record this, we're February 2023. AI has now become available. Fascinating things are happening politically around the world. A lot of money's being printed. What is your crystal ball thought process and or strategy to navigate whatever you feel is about to happen in the future?
I've learned a lot of painful lessons. I've gotten slapped down to. I'm not going to lie. I've gotten slapped down in many investments in the last year, and I've learned a lot of lessons, especially in the crypto world with all those lending platforms and exchanges. So, I've been a victim. I don't want to say victim.
Yeah, I understand.
I take full responsibility for actions to put money and allocate money somewhere, right? But
we share that too,
right? So I don't want to portray the victim mentality. I was a victim of FTX, paper or Voyager,
right?
Yes, I was quote unquote a victim, but I take full responsibility because I was the one that decided to allocate money in a certain pile, right? I think that people intrinsically, again, want shortcuts, and this will never go away. So we had pyramid schemes for years and years and years, whether it started off with people selling shovels during the gold rush and people who sold shovels made more than people digging for gold, or, the '08 housing stuff, or, the stock brokerages in the '08 that went under because they were over leveraged and they were using the client's money. Or right now with crypto, what we have, unregulated mismanagement of stuff, that is all caused due to people's greed and the need of people to try to create wealth with no resistance and take shortcuts, right? And that's human psychology, and this will always happen. Right now, let's say in 2020, 2022, 2023, it's crypto and the exchanges. Maybe in 5 years, there's going to be an AI pyramid scheme. So that is always something to watch out for. And I've learned this lesson the hard way, is that if it seems way too easy to make a certain amount of money, it's probably too good to be true, right? And for me, I'd rather, take a little bit of a harder route and invest in things, especially that I have a deep understanding of. So,
and in this case, real estate is your main
real estate
jam at this point.
Yeah, real estate and stocks. In terms of day trading and long-term positions, that's only the things that I allocate my money to. I do not invest in other people's businesses because I do not have experience in that. So that would be that. In terms of my predictions, if I were to put them out there, I think 2023 is going to be a tough year for us in terms of markets. I do not see a lot of market appreciation in the stock market. Real estate market, I actually see a negative market in terms of home valuations, compared to today, not, a year ago, not whatever. It's taking it for a grain of salt because it really depends where you are. If you're in a hot area where people are fleeing to, like Texas, Arizona, Florida, Vegas, I think those markets will hold up, better real estate wise than people where you have, either political stuff like California and all that bullshit that they have going on over there, So I believe that certain states in the United States, I'm only going to talk about the U.S. because that's my experience. I do not own any properties outside of the U.S. So again, just want to talk about things that I understand.
Love the disclaimers.
Right? I believe that, as I said, to reemphasize states where population is fleeing to, a lot of red states, Arizona, Vegas, Nevada, Florida, Texas are going to hold up better than a lot of blue states like New York and California that people are fleeing from. But overall, I do expect a correction in the real estate market. And I do believe the stock market will be recovering and seeing appreciation ahead of the real estate market. So we can see stocks, things of that nature, crypto and more risk on assets, tech stocks start rebounding before real estate rebounds. On paper, technically, from history, because it repeats itself, stocks bottom or probably around 12 to 18 months before real estate does. So right now,
do you feel we've hit bottom on stocks?
I do not want to make that prediction because although things are improving economically, there's just so many uncertainties with people yelling, World War III, China, Ukraine, all that stuff. There's a lot of geopolitical stuff that can, create a lot of headwinds. But I'm still invested in the markets. I'm very, I have a cash heavy allocation, which one of my mistakes going into 2023 was actually not having enough dry powder to deploy into a lot of opportunities. So one thing that I've learned,
for those who don't know, dry powder being cash. Thank you.
In this scenario. So two biggest lessons for me in 2022 were: do not invest in things you do not understand, do due diligence on, or because it's a fad and someone says, Bitcoin is a hedge to inflation or whatever, right? Number two would be having enough dry powder to deploy that into opportunities when they show up, because they will show up. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah. So, got a 22-year-old Warren Buffett. Same, but those principles you and I are much the same in terms of, we still speculate, but it's asset allocation, right? It's just, at least that's what I've learned is the game. So why do you feel real estate's going to take a hit?
Well, the interest rates have skyrocketed from, mid 3% for investment properties to right now. I just pulled a refinance and I have another one closing tomorrow for about $520K. On a property, and we're taking a 6.5% interest rate on that. So you have about a 4% increase in interest rates in a matter of a year, a little bit less. And statistically, for every 1% interest go up, the buying capability of a potential buyer goes down by 10%. So it's a 1 to 10 relationship. So if interest rates went up 4%, buyers can now afford a 40% less mortgage, right? And that's just a matter of supply and demand. Less people are willing and able to afford a certain type of home. Less demand, more supply, especially as people are starting to finish construction of new homes. A lot of new homes starting to hit inventories. In Florida, another thing is we have a lot of elderly people that are going to have, in the next couple of months, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more listings come to Florida, especially from the elderly crowd, 65 plus, due to insurance raises. We have a big, for those unaware, like the crisis with property insurances. We only have like one quote unquote monopoly that insures the majority of houses in Florida, and few small companies that pretty much go under, and premiums are about to be really jacked up on insurance. A lot of elderly people with no income that are on retirement are not going to be able to afford their payments. That is happening because of the laws in Florida. There is the most amount of litigation going on between insurance in Florida than any other state, and then due to where we're located with hurricanes, the recent hurricane that just hit and wiped out, and there's going to be a lot of insurance claims that are paid out on that. So, more money paid out has to come from somewhere. So your premium gets, higher. It's the same as a car. You've been in more car accidents, you got to pay more because you're a riskier driver. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. And where are you, like, this is fascinating because like I study a whole bunch of shit that most people would be like, why are you nerding out on that? So why are you nerding out on that?
Well, I feel the need to because I, number one, talk about it on social media at events. I give advice, so I need to stay up to date for that. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I would not be credible to talk about those things and give advice to people. Yeah. Right. Number two, it's due diligence for my own stuff. The knowledge is power in this department. So those are the two reasons that I guess nerding out. And number three is I like learning. I like having that, as you said, unbiased perspective from both sides. I like to introspectively look at, what the side is saying, what this side is saying, and then use common sense and logic to make a rational decision that I resonate with the most.
Yeah. So, yeah. Logical. I love it. In terms of that, I know about a little over a year ago, I remember you full sending into buying a lot of Bitcoin. Mm-hmm.
That was one of those lessons that I learned.
Yeah. So I'm curious, how do you, in terms of hard lessons learned, I'm curious, like that, it was north of 7 figures. Yeah.
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 So let's just say there's a little bit less than half left of that.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what's the hardest lesson you've learned in terms of losses in business so far in your very lengthy elderly journey?
Losses, like actual paper losses and like actual lost money, like opportunity.
However you want to answer the question.
I would say, in terms of big losses, I've had opportunities that I passed on in terms of investment that would have yielded, 7-figure returns.
What's the biggest one?
Both on trades that I closed out pretty much by being scared. And the thing is, I was too over leveraged and over position. My technical analysis was right, my thesis was right, but due to the nature and how much money I had on the table, I had emotions in play, and I decided, hey, let me just close all this out, disregard all the other analysis and things that were telling me, hey, stay in a trade. And I missed on a big run up. That was when I had a lot of call options on Tesla when I was pushing, post split from like $300 to $900. Again, I capitalized on some of that because I still had exposure. Made like I think 30K, where I could have made probably north of 600K. Okay. I stayed in a position, with the full size that I had. I had the position open with that full size. If I did nothing, I would have 600K. But, I chickened out because I had too much money invested where my emotions came in. I would have rather had, 1/3 of a position in there and made 200K.
Sure.
Right. And stayed in. So, that is one thing with emotions and trading. They get the best.
As Warren Buffett says, if you can't manage your emotions, you can't manage money.
Nope.
So what did you take away from that you're like, did you have a new rule as a result of that or anything?
The takeaway from that was controlling position size and knowing that when you have a gut feeling that, when you have any feeling attached to a trade that you need to close it out completely and reevaluate it from a fresh perspective. And before even jumping into a trade, having a clear set line for how much am I risking on this trade versus how much I'm willing to make, because I went into that trade and then once I already took that trade, I realized, hey, I'm risking way too much. If this goes south, I will not be able to, it'll take me a long time to recover and it's going to be way more than I at this point would, to afford to lose. That decision and that kind of understanding of where I was in that trade should have been before I even took any position. I should have said, hey, this is the max amount of money I'm willing to lose on a trade. Hence my position allocations should be so. Let me go into it with that. But I did it in reverse. I put it in there and then realized, shit, if this goes south, I'll lose, a little bit over 120K. I'm like, oh, that's a lot of money. And I pretty much closed the position.
Yeah. So how close of a correlation, because I'm not like an options trader, right? I dollar cost average and then I focus on what I know. How close of a correlation between trading philosophy and just general business philosophy? Are they the same? Are they different?
With trading, it's similar to business in certain avenues in terms of managing risk and things of that nature. Trading will not teach you a few things that business will, because in trading, one of the things I like about trading, and the thing is I can trade full time for the rest of my life and not do any other businesses. Yeah. What trading provides is you never have to talk to other people. And that's, again, why I resonate to it. My, 15-year-old mind came out. I was like, oh, I like playing video games and not having to talk to anybody and, make friends and talk and have, I didn't have to worry about being socially awkward or not. It's just me, my skill, and the charts, right? With trading, what's great about it is like you have no overhead. So whatever you make, you keep. You have no employees, no boss. You don't have to hop on meetings, calls, sales, marketing, none of that. It's just you, your skill, and the charts.
I like that.
So, trading will not teach you about emotional intelligence. Well, it will in some aspects, because you obviously have to be self-aware of your emotions, but on a different level. You don't have to understand, buyer psychology. You don't have to understand copywriting. You don't have to understand, process for sales, like what a warm lead is and what a cold lead is. And I'm glad to have had experiences on both sides of the spectrum, where I had experience in trading and also in business, to now I trade full time and have a business.
Yeah.
But if I ever come to a place where I do not want to talk to people, customers, clients, refunds, and trading, you have to deal with refunds, right?
Right.
I can just say, hey, I can let go of this side of the story and not deal with any business stuff, and just be left with the trading stuff and just me, myself, and charts.
I like that. Me, myself, and the charts. That might go on a thumbnail on this video.
The other thing with trading, it's one of those skills and crafts which will hold a mirror to your face and show you a reflection of all your flaws internally as a character. If you're impulsive, if you have an addictive personality, if you do not learn the lessons that you need to learn, it will keep showing you those things until you put your ego aside and start working on those things. A lot of people do not move forward because they have an ego and they think they're right, or they think whatever they want to think. But the charts are holding a mirror up to your face and saying, hey, these are all the flaws that you need to work on. You will not get better until you pretty much address those issues.
Yeah. So it's funny because I look at it like in my business, we're huge on data. Like we got, we pride ourselves on it. I just don't know how else I would make decisions. Right. But when we look at that, especially like you see this with salespeople a lot, is they get super confident, like kind of unwarranted confidence. And I'm just like, your scoreboard should tell you how you should be feeling right now. Like just as an FYI, I appreciate the confidence, but you may want to reevaluate. You may want to reevaluate how good you're feeling right now. So it's the same. I look at it as you're saying. I'm like, yeah, that's the same thing. I'm like, what's the scoreboard looking like? I'm curious for you, what everybody watching this is an entrepreneur for the most part. What's one question that every entrepreneur should ask themselves if they want to be really successful?
It's one question all entrepreneurs should ask themselves. If I wasn't doing any of this for money, what would I be doing?
Why should they ask that?
Because it comes back to our previous conversations of being attached to the outcome. If you're doing it for money and not enjoying the process, then you are setting yourself up for disasters. For example, with trading, I was doing it just to play the game. I viewed it as a game. Money just was a bonus that came with it, right? The reason for asking that question is because in any business avenue, whether it's sales, marketing, e-commerce, drop shipping, whatever you do, right? There's going to be times where you encounter resistance, where things fail, where things don't work out, where people hate you, despise you, refund you, where you don't have a good delivery method or whatever it may be. In those times, you get hit with a lot of doubt, and that doubt is, you start evaluating yourself. You're like, am I worthy of this? Do I have the qualities to be a good leader? When employees quit or something, or can I actually teach people how to do this? Am I credible? And you go through this whole rabbit hole in your mind. And the only thing that will put you back on track is, again, knowing that you're not doing this just for the money and that there's something else in there. Because otherwise, if you were just doing it for the money, you would quit and try doing something else.
Facts. Second to last question, because I got to ask this. Tim Grover, Relentless, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Tim Grover. You know Tim Grover.
The coach?
Yeah.
I think Icon and I were speaking about it, that he just reached out to him and they're going to be doing
perfect
an event. So,
well, Tim says every successful person, every high performer has a dark side connected to them. I'm curious, what's your dark side?
As in like vices, or
however you want to answer the question. What's your dark side?
Dark side. There's a lot of that. There's a lot to unpack in there. I mean, I would say personality-wise, I have a very compulsive, addictive personality. Whatever I start, and it took a lot of self-awareness to, break past those things and cope with a lot of things. But understanding that I have a very addictive and compulsive personality, it's very easy to get dragged into the wrong things, whether it's gambling, biting nails, pornography, whatever it may be, right? Or even just compulsively, trading stocks and not realizing that you're actually gambling and not trading.
Yeah.
Right? So I would say that's my dark side, is just knowing that. But with it's a powerful thing if it's channeled in the right way. With great power comes great responsibility.
So how do you channel it? Like, how do you, like, obviously, well, in real estate and it's not, but how do you get yourself to channel it?
By talking to people, like therapy and things like that, by meditating, by doing a lot of inner work and healings, by keeping a weekly journal. I do a lot of similar things that I was doing a little bit before Ravi, but Ravi kind of our mutual friend Ravi reemphasized on that. He has, I believe, a daily journal where he has feedback loops, creating feedback loops, and not only feedback loops, but feedback loops that recur often, whether it's daily, hourly, weekly, or whatever, having feedback mechanisms in your life where you can go down that kind of dark path, but then when a feedback loop presents itself, you course correct. Right? So having feedback loops in your life.
Define real quick a feedback loop for those who don't know.
Feedback loop is pretty much something that happens which makes you reevaluate your action, and then you change the action to get a different outcome. So, for example, asking yourself at the end of the day, why did I not make more than $1,000 today? And then going into deep, answering of because I slept in until 10 a.m. Instead of 8 a.m. because I, took too little sales calls. And now you start, identifying the issues that cause you not to get to, where you want to be, right? The same thing. It's just about the quality of questions you phrase and how often you ask yourself those questions. Right?
Beautiful.
So
yeah. So speaking of questions, what question should I have asked that I did not ask?
Asking me, you mean?
Yeah.
I think we covered a lot of things, John, in terms of questions. If you want to keep going down a rabbit hole of real estate, we can talk a little bit more about real estate.
What should I have asked that I didn't ask? That's however you want to.
Why? I mean, I think it'll be valuable for the audience to know why I picked the type of real estate method that I did, because I'm in short-term rentals and real estate development. Because the thing is, there's so many ways to make money in real estate. You can wholesale, you can be a realtor, you can,
all right. So why did you choose the route you chose in real estate? For me,
time is very important. Time is a big theme. In my life in general, I have a tattoo here that says your time is limited, and I live by that. Because time and energy are two of those assets that you have that are finite. Energy is kind of replenishable. You can go take a nap like you did before we did the show, and you have more energy, and we can keep talking. Right, time goes one way and never looks back. So for me, from a time aspect, a couple of things is I wanted to have the time to still be free to move around and fly places and be with people, and also have time to work in my other businesses, which is trading, consulting, speaking at events, and doing all those things. And I asked myself, how can I get involved in real estate to save on taxes? And the thing is, I was like, I need to go down the route of real estate because I got hit with three options. I'm like, I can be a little bitch and run away to Puerto Rico, right? But that would not be freedom, because I don't want to be in Puerto Rico stuck there for 6 months out of the year. I can go to a place like Dubai and do the same thing. But again, I'd be changing my environment for a purpose of saving taxes, which, I didn't want to do. I like where I live. I like my friends. I like my environment. I want to be in control of that. I don't want to be forced into a box just to save some money on taxes.
Yeah. Or
I can get involved in real estate. So then I started thinking, I'm like, I can't really get into real estate right now because my plate is full. I'm trading full time. I'm coaching people. I'm, flying to events, speaking, doing podcasts, all those things. If I add real estate to that too, my time's going to be spread too thin and things are going to start breaking. So I started going down a rabbit hole of how can I get involved in real estate, but also maintain control of my time? So in real estate, and this was my presentation in Mexico, there is pretty much two ways to get into real estate. And I want to break the two myths people have when getting into real estate or when thinking about getting into real estate. One is I don't have enough time to get into real estate. It takes a lot of time, or I don't have enough money to get into real estate. The thing is, there's methods and approaches that you can use when you have no time, but a lot of money, or when you have access to capital, some capital, and you have no access to time whatsoever. So for example is, if you have no money and you have time on your hands, you can wholesale real estate, right? You don't need any money to wholesale. You just need to be able to make phone calls, meet people, and be in that, networking.
Yeah.
You can be a real estate agent. It costs less than $1,000 some time to get your real estate license. You then go sell homes and make a commission on the sales that you make. You meet people, you make introductions, you get referral fees and things of that nature. Again, that doesn't take any money. You can build up that way.
Mm-hmm.
With me, I was in the other boat. I was like, I have a lot of money to allocate, but I have no time. So what can I do? I was like, I can, fix and flip properties. I'm like, crap, that requires time and money.
Yeah.
Right. That's not going to work. And fix and flipping, in my opinion, is the worst way to be involved in any sort of real estate. It's a good starting point, but long term, I think fix and flipping is the worst when it comes to real estate, because you are pretty much getting yourself a job to fix and restore a property. You cap the upside because you're selling the property and you miss out on all the long-term appreciation. You get no tax benefits because it's a short-term gain, because you flip it in less than a year, most likely, and you have to pay short-term capital gains versus long-term. You get no tax benefits in terms of depreciation, all other things that real estate provides. So I was like, that's pretty shitty, right? And then you get to deal with old properties where you don't know what's behind the walls and, get to fix leaking toilets and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, then I can buy a long-term rental and just pretty much collect rent. And I was like, okay, that's, one of the approaches. Let's not cost out that option, because I do have some long-term rentals. It requires you, to put a bunch of money down, finance a property, or buy it outright cash, put a tenant in there, and then you collect a check every month and maybe check in every so often. For me, I like the aspect of that, but I didn't like the fact that I'm most likely buying and renting an older property, not a new construction build, right? And then there's still going to be issues that come up where tenants call you, hey, my roof is collapsing, my toilet is leaking, my shower is not working, my plumbing is not flushing, come fix it.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, I don't want to get myself a job as a handyman, fixing all those things, or even deal with the, phone calls and all that stuff. What else can I do? I'm like, real estate development. Right? I was like, this sounds interesting. What are the pros of real estate development? Well, you get a new construction property that's newly built. It's built up to the recent code. So your insurance is going to be much less than old properties. So for example, right now I have a new construction property that is 3,000 square feet, 2023 built. The insurance in that is about $2,000 a year. I have another property that we're tearing down. Actually, I have a meeting for that tomorrow. That's a 1920s built property. It's a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 1,100 square feet, and the yearly insurances on that is close to $4,000.
Holy shit!
Just to maintain it, because again, it cannot withstand a hurricane. It's built out of wood frame, not block, and a lot of other things. Cause it to be a more riskier property. So that's cheaper. Number 3 is when you have a new construction property, depending on the contract, obviously, but for all of my builds, the builder offers a 1 to 3 year warranty on large things. So if the roof collapses, tomorrow, he's responsible, or he or she, whoever built the home, is responsible for replacing and fixing that. If the appliances break, there's warranty on those things, or the builder will fix it. If you have concrete cracks or whatever it may be. For the most part, the builder is liable for the first 3 years, which is good, because I don't have to worry about all those other things coming up. Number 3 is you're the first owner of the property, so you see exactly the way everything was and the way everything is. When you're buying a property from somebody else, you don't know there's a lot of hidden things. Behind that TV we have here, there may be a big hole that you covered up with some drywall and putty, and in reality there's a deep dark hole that will cost $50,000 to replace, right?
Don't tell the people who buy this house, all right?
I mean, not covered. So there may be a lot of issues that you do not know about. The other thing is clientele, right? I want to deal with people who can afford a nice new construction home, whether it's for rent, for short-term rentals, or for purchase. I do not want to deal with older properties and, let's say, risk getting shot trying to collect $800 of rent. Right. So those were the main reasons I picked real estate development, because it's hands off. I pretty much meet with an architect, meet with a builder, select the plans of what I want to build, then fund the project, and then I'm hands off for 9 months while the project is being built. Maybe I'll have to take one phone call a week saying like, hey, we want to meet you at the construction site just to to show you this is where the door is going to be, and is this color okay for the wall. But other than that, I can use all that spare time to put into my business, and I have a point of leverage. When people get into real estate, typically with flipping or any other approach, wholesaling, they lose the point of leverage, which is their time. Right? Wholesaling, you do not have much leverage because you're trading your time for money. Right? Here, I'm spending money to not only learn, I'm getting paid to learn. Right. Getting an asset that is brand new, protected by insurance and warranties and all those things, dealing with a great type of clientele, but I also have control of my time to direct that time into other things that will create leverage.
This is, you're like the epitome of think and grow rich. For real though, and you and I are very similar in terms of assessing. I think of it in terms of like, if I knock down this domino, what are all the possible?
What are the ripples?
Yeah, exactly. And how many levels? How many dominoes deep can I project? And then seeing, 40, 50, 60, 70 steps ahead. And when I'm listening, I think the summary of this, of what I'm hearing, is everything that you do is very calculated, very thought through. And I really, really appreciate that about you, because so few people
I appreciate that.
Actually consider all the ramifications and actually take the time to think about what the fuck they're doing. And so I really, really appreciate that about you. So for those who want to follow you and learn more about what you do and get more of Simon's thinking goodness, where should they go?
So on Instagram, it's at Mr. Simon Lerner, and everywhere else, whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, it's just my name, Simon Lerner. Just guys, watch out for impersonators and scammers. There's a lot of those who pretend to be me. I do, once again, do not manage anyone's money, will not ask you to send me Bitcoin. So
same.
Yeah.
we have the same issue.
Right.
That was like whack-a-mole.
DMing you for that, then that's not me. But would love to connect with you guys and answer any questions.
Awesome, bro. I appreciate you coming down. You're the man. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for making it to the end, and I hope you got something out of it. The good news is I've got another one that you're going to like, and the link is right here. All you have to do is click it, and it'll start playing. So go ahead and click that now, and I'll see you in the next one.